What is good, all of our listeners and viewers? Welcome back to another episode of Games and Groceries. My name is Adam.
And I'm Liz.
And I can't figure out what kind of beard I want. Woo! We're here with an episode 127. We're here with the greatest story ever played podcast. We're going to be talking about what's the best timing for a sequel. But first, we've got some segments for you. Yes, we do. Liz, how you doing?
I'm good. I baked sugar cookies today.
Oh, good. Yeah. Was that fun?
It was all right. It was a little frustrating.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. But I'm glad you made it out safe.
Same.
Yeah, same. I'm very happy. But yeah, so we're here. It's December. It's almost Christmas time, and we got some things to talk about.
We do.
But yeah, so why don't we get on with the show? You're here for a podcast, not for us to be just talking about anything. But hey, if you are here talking, you're here to hear us talk about anything. We've got a second podcast for you. It's called What's the Biz Podcast, where we just talk about really just anything. It comes out every Tuesday. You should check it out. Links are down below if you want to check out that podcast. But, let's just get started with the social media pages. We're on social media at Gaming Groceries on Twitter, or you can follow us individually. I'm at Ace the Grocer.
And I'm at Journey First.
You can follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word, where you can see some updates about the channel, some behind the scenes photos, some stories here and there, and some questions I'll ask you about the podcast discussion. So I'll be posting questions on the Twitter, the Instagram, and the Facebook if you want to check out that to get me involved in the discussion. We also have a website, gamesgroceries.com, where you can listen to all the podcasts from the website, as well you can find out where you can listen to the audio versions of the podcast, as well as some articles I've written in the past. And if you're so inclined, if you watch this on YouTube, hi, how you doing? You doing good? Awesome. We're here every week on this channel. You can click subscribe and that notification bell so that you know when all these podcasts come out, as well as our weekly Thursday uploads. Not just coffee games. Maybe in the next one, the next one's going to be a coffee games, but then the one after that is going to be a new format that we're experimenting with. So keep your eyes open, press that subscribe, just smash that subscribe button. And with all that said and done, what do you think? What do you think we should do?
I think we should go into the first segment.
Oh, we should? Let's go into our first segment.
Movie Minutes.
Movie Minutes is a segment that we talk about movies that we watched in the past week, whether it be on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, not Disney Plus, maybe HBO Max pretty soon. And we like to give you a recommendation or not a recommendation. And this month, in the month of December, and a little bit in January, just a little sprinkle in January, we're going to be talking about some Christmas movies. And instead of giving you our usual 5-point scale, we're going to give you a 5-point scale in terms of jingles. Jingles being how much of the Christmas spirit it actually gives you. One being it's The Matrix. It's not really, it's not a Christmas movie. And 5 being Elf. Elf is the yardstick of the best Christmas movie of all time. And so we're going to go into this one. And it's a movie. It's a Hulu original. And it stars Kristen Stewart. Not Kristen Bell. They're two different people.
They're very different people.
Mackenzie Davis and Daniel Levy. Danny Levy, Dan Levy, whatever you want to call him. It's called The Happiest Season. Woo! Let's go into opening thoughts about the movie and go.
I was really excited to watch this because the trailers looked so funny.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie overall. Even outside of it being a Christmas movie, it was just
a good story.
It was a good story. It was a really good story. I enjoyed it. Kristen Stewart's new, just the movie she's done recently, have just made me just a huge fan of her again.
Which movie are you talking about?
We watched the one on Amazon Prime.
Oh, that one. Yes.
That one where she played the actress.
Yes, that one.
You know exactly which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but go for it.
But that
yes,
one,
I understand.
But even her newer stuff just always looks really good. So I'm very happy about that because she wasn't doing well for a while. So I'm very happy. I just really enjoyed this movie. It was funny. It was cute. I liked it.
So the premise of this movie is and I put this in my notes here, the premise of this movie is really to normalize the LGBTQ plus community into a traditional Christmas, right? And what I enjoyed about the way they set up this premise is that it set up to say that, like, it's not that they're different, it's that they can also fit into a nice Christmas story without it being weird.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the whole fight with that. It's like Kristen Stewart character is, no spoilers, if no spoilers here. Kristen Stewart's character is trying to do traditional Christmas love and family, and she's trying to be in with that. Dan Levy's character, by the way, Dan Levy just what killed this movie. Like, he absolutely
He
won.
did awesome.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character.
He was my favorite character. He actually murdered his lines every single time. His comedic timing was just
awesome.
on par.
It was perfect.
Yeah. He was absolutely phenomenal.
Like, I would, even if the whole movie sucked, I'd say you should watch it just to watch him.
Yeah. And his character kind of represented that on the side of the, LGBTQ plus community, saying it's like, don't try to actually put yourself involving with traditional Christmas family. That's so patriarchal, and that's just so.
Well, he's not a commitment. That was his character more of. It was just a non-committal.
Well, no, he was also, saying it's like, don't even try to be a traditional Christmas time,
Gotcha.
Which then, Kristen Stewart is fighting along with in a comedic way. But, it's trying to normalize that into saying that they can also be in normal Christmas movies and it's fine. That's the premise. What do you think about that?
I mean, it didn't throw me off guard.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I liked about it. It felt so natural, and that's the other thing. The note I wrote is that I could not take myself away from this story. Like you said, you enjoyed the story, and I couldn't take my eyes away from it. It kept my attention the whole way through.
Yeah,
I think it was only an hour and 43 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't like too long or anything like that.
And it's a story of just finding the right moment. Oh, and that's the other thing. I forgot I wrote this in my notes. What's beautiful about the story is that you really get to see a struggle of trying to come out to your family, because Mackenzie Davis, whose family is the main character, Mackenzie Davis, has not come out to her family yet, has not told them that, this is all in the trailer, by the way.
Yeah.
Has not told them that Kristen Stewart is her girlfriend. She hasn't come out to her family, and what I love about this is that it used Christmas as the antagonist. It's like, well, this isn't the right time. It's Christmas time. You can't really rush these things. Yeah. And Christmas really played a huge role in trying to come out to your family during the holidays.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about this movie, it being a Christmas movie. And I'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
And my final note is that this was a very powerful Christmas movie, and and like I said, the holiday played a major role in this movie, which I absolutely loved. And it's a new type of Christmas movie. It's a new type of Christmas tale. It's not like your normal Hallmark Lifetime.
Yeah,
it's trying to do that, but also include the LGBTQ plus community.
Yes,
and that's what I loved about this, is that it normalized it in a way that you weren't thrown off.
Yeah.
They did it beautifully.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion. Which brings us to our final conclusions. Out of 5 jingles, and 5 being Elf or the Santa Claus.
Yeah.
What did you give this?
I gave this a 4.
A 4?
Because like I said, it was just a great movie overall. It didn't skate around Christmas. It was smack dab during the Christmas season. Definitely had Christmas spirit, Christmas mentioned.
Yeah.
The only reason it's not a 5 is because it didn't give too much Christmas spirit. It was just a good Christmas movie.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also gave it a 4 because unlike what we reviewed last Christmas, where that movie really it could have been set on any time, it would not have made a difference. This one, the holiday made a huge difference.
They used they used the Christmas time. They used the
pressure of it.
Traditions. They're like, oh, well, this is what we do.
Exactly.
Like, they used Christmas as a prop, as opposed to a background.
Where, like I said, it doesn't give off the Christmas spirit like Elf or the Santa Claus does, where it's all about, very much Christmas. Like, it's in your face Christmas. But at the same time, it definitely used the holidays as
kind of like 4 Christmases.
Yes.
It was very kind of like that tone where it's Christmas, but it's not like Christmas spirit.
And as a movie, I definitely recommend watching this. If you have Hulu, definitely watch this because I just love the way this was written. I love how they utilize the chemistry between Mackenzie Davis and Kristen Stewart. You can definitely tell the tension between the two, but and I can't stress this enough. Dan Levy was just fantastic in this movie.
Amazing.
If anything, just Dan Levy's performance in this movie was just so good.
Yes.
I need to watch more of him. Like, really. I was just, we were talking. I was just like, why haven't we watched more of Dan Levy?
Yeah.
My goodness. But that's our thoughts on Happiest Season. It's a Hulu original. If you have Hulu, or if you don't, get that 1 week subscription to it. The trial. A trial to it. And so Happiest Season. Go check it out for yourself. We gave it a 4 jingles, and we want to hear from you in the comments down below. Did you watch it? What did you think of it? What are your thoughts in the comments down below? All right, it's time to talk about some gaming news.
Okay.
Wow, that's cool. Let's just go ahead and do it with our second segment.
Top 3 Gaming News.
The top 3 gaming news is the gaming news that we saw in the past week, and we like to rank it 3, 2, 1, just to give you a condensed version of what's going on in the gaming industry. In the past week, anyway. What's going on?
I don't know. You write the gaming news.
That is very true. Let's get started with our number 3.
Okay.
It's about Xbox.
Well,
I love Xbox. Xbox, my favorite.
we know.
Yes, and it's about Halo. Oh wait, come on, change slides. Halo. Okay, so Halo apparently Halo Infinite had some little bit of rumors that there's going to be a Battle Royale mode. It came off some site that I can't remember off the top of my head. Good job, Adam, professional here. And the rumors got a little bit heavy, to which a community manager had to actually go on Twitter and say, you know what? These are unfounded rumors. Ha ha. What jovial tweets that you're sending, Mr. Rumor Mill? So I want to read this tweet. By the way, the article is linked down below if you want to read more about it. But Brian Jarrard, who is a community manager over at 343 Industries, had this to say: "Nothing gets a post-holiday Monday going like fresh, unfounded Halo Infinite rumors." He then goes on to say, "By the way, yes, I'm aware we could solve this with real news. We certainly have some things we are overdue on and eager to talk more about. We're in the process of pulling together a year-end update." So he's just saying at the first one, unfounded Infinite rumors. And a lot of articles are coming out to saying like, this isn't really a straight denial that there's going to be a Battle Royale mode in Halo Infinite. And this goes back to 2018 when I have this in my notes, when Jeff Easterling. I had to figure out his last name. 2018 when he said the only BR that's going to be in Halo Infinite is Battle Rifle. So there was like this promise like, no, there's not going to be a Battle Royale in Halo Infinite. My goodness. And now a lot of people are just saying this isn't a straight denial. What if there is a Battle Royale mode? Here's my thoughts on it. Who cares? Yeah,
it's just a mode.
That's the thing. If it's just a mode within Halo Infinite, and I talked about this in my sports games, coffee games, which I'll link up here if you want to check it out. That the story mode in sports games kind of takes away from resources that could make the game better. Same way here, that if you design a Battle Royale mode, then it will take away resources from making the game better. However, if it's just a mode, I don't think it's a lot to get worked up over.
No one's forcing you to play it. And from a marketing standpoint, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's what's in right now.
If there was a Halo Battle Royale, I think I would play it. I really
at least
would.
give it a try.
Yeah. I liked Apex Legends.
You did. You really did.
I loved it. And now here's the thing. I think I would care if it was only Battle Royale.
Yes. If it was only Battle Royale, of course you would care. A lot of Halo fans would care because that's not what the game is. Yeah,
exactly. If it was Halo Infinite Battle Royale, like that was the only it. Yeah, I think storm the trenches with me. Why don't you? But if it's just a mode within the game, then it's just
Who cares? And as of right now, it's not in there. So don't get all worked up before you actually have definite information.
I just I really like how Brian handles this. Nothing gets like unfounded infinite
I
rumors.
found that to be mildly rude.
It is.
I was like, dude, calm down.
By the way, yes, I'm aware we could solve this with real news. But like that's it, and we're about to in the process of pulling together a year-end update. There's no denial of it.
No.
And that's the thing. That's what's worrying me. It's like if this is pretty much the no comments of comments. But it is what it is. But write your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of this? Would you play Battle Royale in Halo Infinite? Write your thoughts in the comments down below. I think I would, but who cares about me, right?
I do.
Oh, that's nice. But let's go on to our number 2 gaming news. Wow. And this is actually similar to last week when we talked about Yellow Brick Games. Some more veterans left the industry to start their own studio.
Yeah.
So this is from the Silent Hill, pretty much the lifeblood of the Silent Hill series, Kichiro Toyama.
I loved your eyes the second you attempted at pronouncing that.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna try it.
I'm gonna try it. Toyama. Where he founded his own studio called Bokeh Game Studios.
Cool.
Well, along with him and some other names that I'm scared to pronounce. Toyama is joined by Kazunobu Sato from Last Guardian. Good job, Adam. You're doing good, Adam. Thank you, Adam. And Junya Okura, who was the director behind Gravity Rush. So the two people behind the Last Guardian and the Gravity Rush series is joined the Silent Hill director to make an all-new studio called Bokeh Game Studios. And
cool.
I want to read this quote from Toyama, who has to say, at their newly established Bokeh Game Studio, Toyama hopes to fulfill our fans' expectations while enjoying how fun it is to make games again with more freedom. He also says, honestly, I can't forget the atmosphere we used to work in back in the day. He said many things on a whim, just improvising. So again, this is another set of game industry veterans saying like, I miss the days where we just made games.
Yeah.
Made games for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And now they're started designing their own studio and they're just saying, I love the last quote, just making things on a whim and just improvising.
Yeah.
And I love that. And
not people pleasing, just taking their art, putting it out there.
And this goes back to our points of last week with Yellow Brick Games, saying that like this could be like the rise of indie. This could be a lot of veterans are just wanting to reset the game industry and just do things like the way they were before, you know? And this is great, especially if you're excited for, you know, Silent Hill and of course, if you love The Last Guardian and the Gravity Rush series, if you love these kinds of games, I'm sure you're thrilled. I wasn't big on the Gravity Rush. I loved The Last Guardian, but I just love their passion for this, and this is great. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I don't have too many thoughts because I don't know anything about any of those games.
Oh.
But I think I kind of remember The Last Guardian.
Yeah, you thought the big dog bird was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was gonna say I think that was the one I was thinking of, but But no, I mean, it's great. I'm excited to see what else happens this year with like, because a lot of people are leaving their big companies. Like, this isn't, like we said, this isn't the first one to do it this year or even recently. So, interesting things to come.
So speaking on that point, I think that's a great way to transition into our number 1 gaming news.
Number 1.
Which is absolutely mind-blowing and a bigger deal than most people are making it. Is that studio heads from Bioware, Mark Dara and Casey Hudson, left Bioware.
Wow.
They just left, and that's insane. There's Mark Dara right there. Okay. There's Casey Hudson right there.
Thanks
right there.
for clarifying.
You're welcome. Mark, meet Lizzie. But why this is a big deal is that one, this is Casey Hudson's second time leaving Bioware.
Oh.
I believe he left 2014. I believe he left that time. I can't remember for the top of my head. But he left and he came back again to work as the general manager of of BioWare, and of course Casey Hudson is, but Mark Dara was the creative director or the executive producer, I should say, of the Dragon Age series, which Dragon Age 4 is set to come out, I would say pretty soon.
Yeah.
Maybe not pretty soon, but it's going to be showing up at the Game Awards. But they just kind of left, and they didn't really have any plans of like what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, listen, we've had enough, and we're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to read this quote from here, and I believe this is from Casey Hudson, if I'm right. But Casey Hudson says this: "I will miss being able to work every day with our inspiring developers on the biggest and most exciting projects I can imagine." He continued, "But I also know that this is a good time for change, both for myself and BioWare." And so what that says to me is that it's insane. Well, what that says to me is that like he came to a crossroads, and he's like, you know what? BioWare doesn't need me anymore, and I don't need BioWare, so it's time for me to go. It's time for me to leave. It's time for me to step down, and I'm going to take Mark Dara with me. And it's funny that both of them left at the same time. Both of them gave in and said, you know what?
So now we're waiting on news that they're doing something.
Yeah, they have to be doing a studio soon. They have to be. And if they're not, that's fine. You know, maybe they want just more time with their families, but
understandable.
You know, and it's just what's going to be interesting is that this is the lifeblood of BioWare. And what most people don't remember is that Mark Dara worked on the first Baldur's Gate, and even Casey Hudson was involved in the first KOTOR game. So they go way back.
Yeah.
I think not Casey Hudson, Mark Dara entered the company in 1997.
Wow.
If I'm right. I can't remember when Casey did. Maybe around the same time. But they were there for like the birth of the company.
I was going to say, I was 4 when he started there.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that they're big parts of BioWare, and now BioWare is not going to be the same anymore. Those are just facts. That, like, these two minds made the BioWare that we absolutely love with Dragon Age, Mass Effect, of course, the KOTOR series, and many others. Many. And BioWare was once known as like the RPG juggernauts at one point, and now the lifeblood has left.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, they're on the search for another general manager. You know, they've kind of cycled up some people saying like, you're going to take this job. Yeah. I think there's a good person in charge. Oh man, I should have done more research. I'm literally coming right out of work, so my brain isn't functioning properly. But yeah, it's kind of weird to say that Casey's not going to come back and took Mark with him. But what I'm excited for, like what Liz said, is that there has to be a studio. There has to be a studio's announcement. And once that does, I think what we were talking about last week with last week's subject of the game industry needs to reset, I think that's going to put the nail in the coffin that the game industry is going to start the reset. Meaning that going back in the ways of old, that indie games are going to be the center blood. And publishers will come back and say all this. But I think Game Pass is going to be a big part in it, because now Microsoft will become almost like a publishing company, put it on Game Pass, and so more people have access to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's very interesting, and I think I hope that you know, Casey and Mark land on their feet, even if it's like working as managers in a Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't know. But I hope they land.
I wouldn't call that landing on your feet after working at BioWare.
Yeah, they got to be doing something. There's got to be a plan, or not. I mean, I was in the same boat in my last job. Yeah, I just kind of like
we're gonna leave and see what happens.
So, you know, applauds to them if that's exactly how they did it with no plan.
Yeah,
applauds to them, because they're just like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore, and I don't care what happens to me. I'm just gonna go. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Not really.
Fair enough. But all right, so that was our top 3 gaming news. Write your thoughts in the comments down below with all of these gaming news. What are your thoughts on it? With Halo Infinite having a Battle Royale, would you play that? I know I asked you, but I'm going to say it anyway. With the Bokeh Studios, do you like these games? Do you like Gravity Rush? Do you like Last Guardian? Did you like the Silent Hill series? Are you excited for these games that are going to come out from these studio heads? Write your thoughts in the comments down below. And with Mark Dara and Casey Hudson leaving BioWare, what's that going to do for you? Like, are you affected by it? Were you a huge BioWare fan? Do you think BioWare is not going to be the same anymore? Write your thoughts in the comments down below. And with all that said and done, let's just bring out our guest.
Okay.
Our guest, of course, is Dan from the Greatest Story Ever Played podcast. He's a good friend of the show. He was one of our first guests ever of the show.
Yeah.
This will be a third time coming on the show.
People are catching up.
Yeah, and he's doing well. His podcast is on the upswing.
Yep.
It's always been on the upswing. What am I saying? But yeah, we're gonna talk about when's the right time for a sequel. But let's just bring him on. Let's bring on our good friend, Dan.
Woo! Coffee time.
All right, everybody, we are back with our very special guest, our good friend, the greatest story ever played. It's the greatest podcast out there, except for ours. It's Dan from the Greatest Story Ever Played.
Thank you for having me on.
Hey, no problem. And if you're watching this on YouTube, Dan has not elected to show his face, so there's his Animal Crossing character. I have seen his face, and it's just the world's not ready for this much glory and beauty. So I agree, Dan. That's the world's not ready for your glorious face. I'm sorry, man.
Also, what do I look like?
Dan, it's good to have you on, man.
You guys need to switch to Animal Crossing characters now.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so fun.
Yeah. So Dan, I want to bring you on because you are an expert, I would say, a connoisseur, if you will, of good story. Your podcast is all about story-driven games, and we'll talk about that in the end. But I want to bring you on about sequels in a game. Now, I want to bring this up first. Let's ask the first question here. When is a sequel actually needed, and when is it just forced upon us? So, Dan, I want to bring it to you first. When do you think a sequel is actually needed? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I guess big times where a sequel should definitely come is if there's like more story to tell that, I don't know, could be told in a good way, or maybe if you've got new elements you want to introduce into your franchise. So maybe like how the gameplay might change or something like that. I think if you're doing something new, that might warrant a sequel, in my opinion, or in addition to a franchise.
Yeah, and I like what you said there. It's like, as long as there's a new story needed, because a lot of the question is like, when is a good time to just end a franchise? When there's nothing new to say. And I love what the Dishonored series did. After Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, the story kind of ended with that. And a lot of people were asked, like, when's the next Dishonored? Arcane Studios said there's not much story to say anymore, so why make a new one? So as long as there's something new, that's the perfect way to have a sequel. Liz, what do you think?
I mean, I completely agree. If there's something new to tell or more to tell of the story, more power to you. Go ahead and do it. If you have another element to add into it, like Life is Strange, there's nothing new to tell, but there's another element to show.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we had Max, but Max's story is done.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to the second story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, that's fine because when you're playing a game or even movies, you can tell when they made a sequel for money. You can see a clear difference between doing it because it's what's part of the plan and doing it for money. Like, after Harry Potter did its whole thing and it split the final one into two halves. Suddenly every series split their final movie into
Twilight
two halves.
did it.
It's like, that's not necessary for every series.
Didn't Hunger Games do it as well?
Yes.
Hunger Games did it?
Yeah. First, Harry Potter did it, and then Twilight did it. Now, Twilight's final book was big. So, it might have if you wanted to get everything in, and it worked for them. And so did Hunger Games. But Hunger Games' final book, I'm looking at it now, is not even close to the size of the final Twilight or the final Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And so it's just funny that they're like, but we need two parts too.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can always tell when series in video games or movies make a sequel for money over the store, over like actually had already planned on doing it.
Dan,
totally. I was going to say, totally agree there. Like how there's 3 Hobbit movies. Like,
Yes.
you could
Yeah.
probably make one good movie. Maybe if you want to stretch it into 2, I could maybe live with it. But
Yeah.
that was like, we need to make more because we want more money.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, and I didn't ask you this ahead of time. By the way, pulling behind the curtains, I usually send my guests a lot of talking points before, so that they're prepared. But I'm going to throw you a wrench, my friend. In your opinion, because I already have mine in my head. If you want some time, what's probably the worst sequel you've ever played on a video game? I'm talking about.
Ooh.
Yeah.
that is a tough one. I feel like offhand, I guess I don't think it's like a bad sequel, but I wasn't a big fan of Uncharted 3.
Yeah.
I thought 2 was really good, and then 3 just like I didn't like the villain. I didn't think what they were doing was that good. It felt like kind of a worse version of the first game to me. But then they did follow it up with a really good one with Uncharted 4 being really good. But that was a sequel that didn't do it for me, and that is definitely my least favorite Uncharted game.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I haven't played the Uncharted games in a little while. I remember liking 2. I think I remember liking 2. I don't think I liked 3. I remember like going through a lot of different lists, and I remember thinking that makes a lot of sense, that people don't like this game. I remember Uncharted 4 very specifically, and I think Uncharted 4 tied a lot of loose ends together, and it was just a good collection, just saying like, here's how the story ends. But 3 definitely could be ignored. The one I always have in mind, and I always say this on the podcast, the Star Wars Force Unleashed 2 was probably my least favorite sequel. It just felt I was about to say it felt so forced.
You're so clever, babe.
It felt forced. Anyways, but it really did. It just felt like we were only getting it because the first one did so well. Force Unleashed was probably one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, in the top 3. And then they followed it up with Force Unleashed 2. And just the premise was just bananas, just outright ridiculous. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And just kind of betrayed how the first one ended. I'm not going to say how it ended, because the spoilers. But that's what I have in mind. Liz, do you have any games you have in mind, or even movies? I'll say.
Well, movies I could think of ever, but I actually did think of a video game.
Okay.
Which is shocking because I don't play many series.
Yeah.
But I do play Dark Pictures.
Oh.
And I have to say, in comparison to Man of Medan, Little Hope wasn't as good.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Just because it felt Little Hope felt very repetitive. It didn't, whereas Man of Medan, every time you play a different character, you were in different parts of the ship and you got attacked by different creatures. Whereas Little Hope, it was the same attack.
Yeah.
And I lost everyone, so that wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It felt more complicated to beat creatures for some reason. And maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm just out of practice 'cause I haven't played much this year. But I don't know. it felt more repetitive.
Yeah.
In comparison. And even though this is a series that they planned out, even after you play Man of Medan, they basically tell you there's more.
Yeah.
And even in, I don't know if it was in Man of Medan, but in Little Hope, it shows the bookshelf. It shows, I think there's 2 or 3 more in the series.
Yeah.
So even though Little Hope was planned, I don't think it was done as well as Man of Medan.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, I want to hear Dan's thought because you just played the game, and didn't you put in an episode for Little Hope yet?
It's not out yet, but there will be one out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But also, World heard it here first. I haven't announced it yet, but it's out there.
Spoiler.
Or it will happen. So that's good. No, it's perfect. I asked questions on social media, so it was headed that way.
Yeah, true.
But that's crazy. I liked Little Hope more than Man of Medan.
I liked the story. I like the story more, but as far as the gameplay itself in comparison, I just wasn't a fan of.
Yeah,
I would agree with that because in Little Hope you're a group and you just play different members in the group the whole time. And I do think exploring the ship was cooler for sure. And I had more people die this time around too, so that's kind of interesting. But I think the Dark Pictures goal is to make 8 standalone games. But I think that depending on the success of the previous one, may depend on if you get another one or
That's
not.
true.
So I'm hoping it works out because I think it's a cool idea. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see it going either way because like I like Until Dawn more than both of them still.
Oh, same.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without question. And I think that brings me to my second question for this discussion. When we're talking about previous games even, and when we're talking about sequels, and the whole subject, you clicked on this video, possibly, to say, when is the right time for a sequel? Now, I want to ask, when is the appropriate amount of time to sit on the previous game before you even start thinking about a sequel or even releasing a sequel? Dan, I want to bring it to you. What do you think about that?
I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule. Like, part of me is like, as long as it takes to make it good. Like for The Last of Us, right? The first one was 2013, and then Last of Us 2 just came out earlier this year in 2020.
2020, yeah.
7 years is a long time, and I would choose not to wait that long if I had a choice.
Yeah.
But I also get that, like, if that's what it takes to make your game the way you want to make it, sure, that's fine, kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if you'd get like fatigued if a new one came out every year or something. Like if a series that you like just had a new game every year, I wonder if you'd be like, this is a little too much. Like when movie series do that, where it feels like a movie's coming out every year, and you're like, I don't know if I can keep up or not.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I thought about my favorite series of all time. Okay, I shouldn't say all time, but my favorite video game series, I would say, is Assassin's Creed. And when those came out yearly, the fatigue became pretty serious. And even when they took a break between Syndicate, it was Syndicate and Origins, they took a year break, and they came out 2 years later, and Origins just blew it out of the water over Syndicate. Syndicate, for me, felt like a chore to play at that point, whereas Origins felt like a breath of new, fresh air. I loved it. Or even, I would say Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is just, it's different gameplay, different setting. The serious fatigue is definitely there, but not like Assassin's Creed was. Assassin's Creed coming out every year was just a nightmare. Liz, what do you think? When's a good time to sit on a game?
I was actually thinking it depends on the game or even the style of the game.
Okay.
Because you're saying Assassin's Creed. Well, Assassin's Creed are lengthy games.
Yeah.
And to have a new one every year, if you don't play every day, like you might barely get it done before the next one comes out, or not even have it done by the time the next one comes out, depending on your life.
Yeah.
Whereas something like the Dark Pictures, they're 2-3 hour gameplay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
That coming out, I would say a year and a half, 2 years is okay, because if you give it, because video games take longer to create than a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, in overall, they take longer to create. Movies coming out every year, you can still get a good production out of a year.
Yeah.
And usually they start filming them while the previous one's being edited.
True. Yeah.
So for video games, I think depending on the length, I think for something shorter and easier, a year and a half, 2 years isn't a big deal, because if it's a shorter game, you played it when it released, and it's gonna feel like forever till the next one comes out.
True.
Whereas Assassin's Creed, I agree. If you have a 2 year to 3 year break, that's fine. But then you also have to bring in the element of the passion behind that story. Like Dan mentioned, The Last of Us. Yeah. How there was that big break. Now, I don't know if that was because of production or because they just didn't have anything to tell yet. But if it comes to that passion behind it, it's like, I'd rather them wait till they have like a really good story that they really want to make. Because that reminded me of, not to bring in probably the most corniest movie in the world, but Princess Diaries.
No!
The second movie came out so far away. No one was really anticipating or asking for a second Princess Diaries movie. But it came out, and it was really funny, and it was at a good time. Yeah. And I'm still waiting for a third.
Oh my God.
but that's what I mean. If it comes out of nowhere, you're like, you know what? We have it, that we can add to that story. Yeah. Like, it's fine if there's 10 years between it, because guess what? You're going to just reignite the whole passion for that series. Now you're series, you know? Yeah. So I think it depends on the game and your passion behind adding to the story.
Yeah, I would say also, camera one turned off apparently.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I would also say that while you two were talking, I was thinking about my answers. I wasn't actually listening. I was just thinking. No, collectively, what you two brought to the table made me think. I think the best gap in between is probably 2 to 3 years, and the reason why I say 2 to 3 years. And I'm not trying to say like what you were saying, Dan. There is no concrete rule of what makes sequel. Make your sequel for when you want to make your sequel. I don't really care. I don't control you. I'm not your daddy. Anyways, but I think a 2 to 3 year gap, it gives two reasons. One, it gives you time to actually take a breath and see what you did right with your game, and then go from there. But it also gives enough time for the fans to just like what you're saying, Liz, give enough time for fans to just kind of process it and really digest it. And it gives enough time for fans to miss it.
Yeah. But not so long that you didn't forget it.
Yeah. And you mentioned, Dan, with Last of Us, how it came out, 2013 and now it came out 2020. One series that I adore and I'm waiting forever is Elder Scrolls 6. When is that coming out? We don't know, and I'm scared.
Okay.
What if I'm 35 and it comes out?
You will.
I know. It's just like, but like 2011 Skyrim came out, and we have no idea when number 6 is coming out. Eric Hines. That's a different person. Pete Hines. Pete Hines keeps saying it's a long ways away. Don't even expect it. Starfield is over. Starfield is going to be the next game. Maybe another Fallout game. Elder Scrolls is way, way, way out there. And I'm just like, that's way too much time. And he's even talking about Todd Howard said that Elder Scrolls 6 is being designed to be played for 10 years.
Yeah, they got to keep it up.
I know.
Well, wouldn't it be super awesome if this was a thing where they're just like playing you guys and it's almost done and they're gonna do one of those announcements where it's like, and you can play it tonight.
Oh my god, that would be
you
great.
Would die.
Because 2021 is the 10-year mark.
Exactly.
And what if they brought it out in 2021 saying like, oh yeah,
and you're not getting another one till 31. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. At least
your
I
head
haven't.
would literally explode if they did that.
Oh yeah, it would. But yeah, enough about me. And but yeah, that's the thing I keep thinking about is that when's a good time for it to come out? And I think the 2 to 3 year gap, as you two were talking, it really made me think about it. It just gives enough time to miss the franchise without you being annoyed because, like you said, Dan, 2013 to 2020 with the Last of Us series, it came out at the right time, I think. I definitely think that 2020 was its year. But to wait 7 years for a sequel, I think that's just a hair too long for you to be just like, I think the max should be maybe 5 years, 5 to 6 years. 7 years, you're just talking about like, this is just annoying. I know it's coming, but when? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it can get kind of like a mythic almost at that point. You're like, okay, will, this thing ever show up? Does GTA 6 ever exist?
Yeah, true.
Or does Detox by Dr. Dre? Will that ever happen? Like, no, of course it won't. We waited 30 years for it or something. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, true.
Now, for Last of Us, because I didn't finish it yet, did the first one end basically telling you there's going to be a second one?
Sort of.
But
it left it open.
Yeah.
I was just wondering. I'm like, were you all just sitting waiting for 7 years, or did the second one coming out reignite the love?
I think, and Dan, I'll give you time to speak on this too because you're a much bigger Last of Us fan than I am. I think it left it in a place where if no sequel came out, people wouldn't be pissed. But it left it open. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the same thing is that, like, if they would have never came back, I don't think it would have been like oh, that sucks. There was so much more to do. Like they could do more, and they did do more with it. Like I think it's a great sequel, and I really like it. But it's polarizing, and I know a lot of people hate it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure to some people they're like, nope, Last of Us 1 is canon. The end.
Yeah.
True.
Which is fine. You're allowed to feel that way, I guess. But
Yeah, to a certain point, you're allowed to feel like that, but you're not allowed to send threatening letters to developers.
Yeah, that's just horrible.
Well, or to voice
I was
actresses,
gonna say, or to actresses.
or to actresses.
yeah, that was terrible.
Now, I do want to talk about, before we get into social media answers, I do want to ask, when's the right time for a sequel to be sent over to another studio, maybe even a reboot, right? We've seen this before in the Life is Strange series, where the series was given over to Deck 9, who made a prequel, sequel, follow-up game, which is one of my favorite games, Before the Storm. And they gave it like new life, whether that new life was good or not, whether you agree or not, but it is what it is. But when do we think that a game should be, or a game series should be handed to another studio in that kind of light? Dan, what do you think?
I'm trying to think. With this question, I was like, I know a lot of games do this, but Life is Strange Before the Storm is the only one I can think of offhand that I've played where it switched. Because I know like Fallout and some of those games do that, but I haven't played any of them, so it doesn't like help me as much in there. But I don't know. I wonder if it's like, if you take more than 5 years, it's fine to give it to someone else. I don't know. I like Before the Storm. Like, I'm glad they added to the universe.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like what it does though is it does allow me to say parts of Before the Storm aren't canon.
Yeah, true.
That just didn't happen.
Yeah, right. Like how they made like the, I don't know, the distance between Chloe and Max go. I'm like, I don't picture it that way, so that's not real.
Which,
like I picture it being like they made it seem like Max got disinterested in Chloe and stopped texting back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think Max got like so much anxiety she just never did anything. Like that's how I picture it. But
they also made it seem like Max had a choice in whether she moved.
Yeah, I know. Well, Dan, did you happen to get a chance to watch Player One versus the World? We've had him on the show before. And his interview with Hanatel at all?
I haven't, but I've seen it on Twitter, but I haven't gotten to check it out yet.
It's really interesting because Hanatel did not like the way Before the Storm depicted Max, because Hanatel loves Max, like that's her baby, and then the way that Before the Storm kind of made Max look into this horrible person essentially. Hannah was just like, I didn't like the way they portrayed her.
That was like my biggest pet peeve. This girl is 12 years old.
I know.
She does not get a choice in whether she moves to a different state. And yes, she does have a choice in whether she is in contact with her friend, and that is her fault. But that happens when you're that young to be expected to keep in touch with someone, like given best friend in the whole world. But I have a best friend, and we talk sometimes once a week, sometimes once every 2 months, depending on how busy we get. But that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
So that'll always bother me about Before Storm is how they made it seem like a 12-year-old had a choice in when she moved. That is her parents' fault. Her parents did not need to move the day of her best friend's dad's funeral.
Yeah.
That is not necessary. Like, that is horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Not a fan of that. I feel like too, I think they did a little better with Farewell than like the journals from Chloe or like Chloe's phone from like episode 1 through 3 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I thought they did a little better with that, with like Max being nervous to like share with Chloe and then the cassette. Like you see this like, hey, I want to say goodbye to you, but maybe it's dumb. And it's like, well, if you feel that way in like a closer context, how are you going to feel in 3 weeks or 3 months when you haven't reached out? Like even more. Yeah. So I believe that part, and I like that a lot. But just the like, the text messages in 1 through 3 though, I'm like, in the journal, I'm like, I just don't see you like ghosting in that way. I see you ghosting. I believe that's real. I just don't. Yeah. So that part's not canon to me.
I agree.
The way I think about it, when we're going back to the question of when should a game be given to another studio, I'm going back to you, Dan, with your point of when a sequel should be made. when there's more story to tell. Now, when a franchise should be given over, fans still want a sequel, but the studio, and the one I think of is Halo, of course. But the one I think of is Halo. When Bungie, I don't know if it was given to 343 Industries by choice, but Bungie went off to do Destiny because they wanted to tell a new story. And Halo was given to 343 Industries. I believe that was a studio specifically made for Halo games. And the way I think about it is that the original creator says, I have no more story to tell. And a new creator says, but I do. I've seen your story and I have a new idea.
Yeah.
Now, was Halo 4 a good story? Liz, so what do you think about this? Halo 4 was not good. Whether or not I think it was good, at least it was a new story in the Halo franchise. It was completely different from Halo 1 through 3. Same thing with Halo 5. It was completely different. Was it good? That's up for debate. No. But I think it's when a new creator says, I like your story and I want to create something new with it.
I think that is terrifying.
Yes.
Because like you said, you did not like the fourth one. And it was
I did not.
Very different from 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And if you're going to add to a series, I know that it's with a new studio.
Yeah.
But it needs to be like the first ones. That's why people love the first ones. If you want to create a new fan base, then add a different segment. It doesn't need to be part of the same story.
Yeah.
Add a different leg to it.
Yeah.
Like Life is Strange, it works because, except for, with Before the Storm, because it's connected to the first one.
Yeah.
But if, say, they gave it to another studio to do episode 2 or episode 3, then it's not as big of a deal because it might have the same heart. They just have a new idea for a new superpower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they have a new idea of where to take that. That's okay because it just needs to have the essence of Life is Strange. It doesn't need to connect as well. And because when you said like, what if they gave it to someone else? I'm like, that's scary. Deck 9, it was one thing because Deck 9 helped with Life is Strange, didn't they?
No, they were completely new. I think that was no, it wasn't their first game. I don't think it was their first game. I think it was their first story game because I think what they did.
I thought they had helped with the first one.
No. It was all Don't Nod.
Anyway. But yeah, like that, the idea of someone else taking a game from a series, for me as a fan, at least, is terrifying because it's like I said, it could go either way. It could be great. It could be a great addition to the game. They could have even more passion than the original creators.
Sure.
Or it could just be horrible. It could just, as a fan, it could be a good game, but just be horrible for a fan because it's not the same of what they fell in love with.
Yeah. Dan, any final thoughts about this question?
No, yeah, I feel like that covers it pretty well. I agree. I think the thought of your game getting passed off is kind of terrifying, and you'd hope it would happen because the studio says, we don't want to do it. You can have someone else do it, as opposed to, like, I don't know, their boss saying, they're making this now, you don't get to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other game that comes into play, and no shocker here, Gears of War, of course. Gears of War 4 went to the Coalition. Again, another studio Microsoft made for specifically Gears of War. It was not done by Epic Games. And I appreciated Gears of War more. Gears of War 4.
We knew what you meant.
More than Halo 4, but it just did not feel the same. Yeah, I don't think that passing off to another studio to make a sequel is the best idea, just because like all of you have been saying, like the original creators had the intentions to make their fans like it, but then passing off to another studio can either mean they love the game too and they want to do it justice, or the studio wants to make more money.
Yeah.
Which is most likely the case.
Yeah.
So I do want to jump ahead to what we call in the channel social media answers. Woo. I will ask you on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Gaming Groceries, or you can follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word, or check us out on Facebook. Toxic. But we have an answer from all 3 sites. Thankfully.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy.
Fancy. Look at us go.
So I do want to read the first answer from Twitter, who we all know as Commander Nikki on the Twitters.
On the Twitters.
On the Twitters. So I asked you guys, when is the right time for a game sequel? When do you think the right time is? On Twitter, at Commander Nikki has this to say: I think when a sequel can contribute something new and interesting to the story / lore, etc. Sports games, maybe an unpopular opinion here, don't need a new release each gosh darn year. Do that in patches or DLCs. And I've been saying this from the start. Just make sports games a live service. But, whatever. I'm wrong. Also, I like it when in real life time passed in the same amount of time the first game also, I like it when in real time passed in the same amount as the first game to the sequel. So if it was 5 years passed in the game as well. She then finishes with, sure, some games don't do ongoing story as much, so they can release a new game whenever they can. I'd say, for example, Far Cry has always had separate stories, except for 5 and New Dawn. But it would also be nice if they could do some new technology stuff to tell their story in a new way. So that last point she made is that there's some games that don't have a continuing story, like Life is Strange doesn't do that, or Far Cry, as she puts out. And I don't think Final Fantasy does either. There's some Final Fantasies, but they name it 10 and 10-2. But
that's confusing.
Well, but it'd be also nice if they brought in some new technology to tell the story. Dan, what do you think about Nikki's answer?
Shout out to Nikki also.
Yeah.
I don't know. Favorite number one listener of probably a lot of podcasts. So
yes.
Oh, true that. Yeah.
I think just doing something new and how it's different. One I was thinking of a sequel that was good was BioShock versus BioShock Infinite, and how the gameplay changed in the second one, and it stopped being in Rapture and that sort of stuff, and that there was something new to do, because BioShock 2 was basically BioShock 1 again, except you were a Big Daddy. It was very similar. So to totally change it, and it's it's not a city under the sea, instead it's a city in the sky, and your gunplay is different, and it's more violent, in my opinion. Stuff like that. It was okay, cool. They changed this game quite a bit. It makes sense that there's another one, and I figure if they ever make a BioShock 4, they'll probably do something crazy. It'll be in space, or I don't know, it's somewhere with ice. I don't know. That's what I'm
with ice. Somewhere with ice.
Yeah, a new scenery for sure is what I would guess. But I think I think Nikki's right. Do that, and I guess with sports games too, it would make sense if it was a DLC, because really year to year they don't change that much.
Yeah.
Which that's another game that was passed off to another studio. BioShock was, because Ken Levine is now off doing his own studio, Ghost Story Games. So Ken Levine is no longer involved in BioShock, so it was passed on to another studio within 2K. So it would be interesting whatever they do. I think the rumor is that it's BioShock in space, but that's just a rumor. But Liz, what do you think about Nikki's answer?
I agree with the sports games.
Yes.
And I don't remember what she said in the second part.
Good job.
I do my best.
Basically, she just said that if there's new technology to tell the story, which is why I think Last of Us 2 coming out in 2020.
Okay, that's what I thought it was the basis of what she said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just new ways to tell your story in the same way Next Gen does too.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's a little complicated for me, because for me, I'm a very story-based person, so the technology level doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice when it runs better and you can use new technology to tell the story. But as far as waiting till new technology is out to do it, I have to disagree with that, because I'm a nosy person and I want more of the story.
Disagreeing with Nikki?
I know. It actually never happens.
Yeah.
I usually almost always agree with everything she says. But I'm a very story-based person. I love drama series and everything. I want more of the story, and I want it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
While still having a good game. That's why I said 2 years to wait for a sequel, because I want it to be a good game. Yeah. But the technology changing doesn't matter to me.
And Yeah, I do agree. And we've been saying this already where Nikki's saying that the sequel can contribute something new and interesting. I like it when in real time has passed. I appreciate that as well. Sometimes that always can't line up because, delays happen.
Yeah. I never even really thought about the in real time team changing. I never really considered that.
Yeah. But I do like her points in saying that there's some games who don't really care about, you can play any game and it doesn't really matter. Final Fantasy, there's some continuation, but not so much where you have to play every single game. That's the very reason why I have not played through the Kingdom Hearts games, because there's too many games to keep track of.
There you go.
They're all on Game Pass, and
you clipped.
I did clip. They're all on Game Pass, and I'm just not about that life. I'm just not. So then we have another answer from at Adam's Ascending, the new game that just came out. It's actually Nick DiPaolo. At Adam's Ascending, which just released in early access. Definitely check that out for yourself. It is a bit buggy, but hey, man, it's early access. Definitely support indie games. Go do it. It's on Steam. I'm talking to you, Dan, not the fans. But Adam's Ascending says, when the fans / market really want it, and you'll make your investment back. And he does hashtag RE2 remake, so Resident Evil 2 remake. So what he's saying is that when the market demands it, and then he hashtags the Resident Evil 2 remake, so that you'll make your investment back. And again, Nick DiPaolo is developing his own game. So he's researching the market heavily. He wants to, make it in the games industry with his first game. So of course he's talking about, your investments. And I think that's a valid point, for a studio. What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a good time to make a game, especially like the Resident Evil remakes, right? They've done a couple now in the last few years. They've done 3, and have they done 4 also?
They haven't. There's a rumor. Well, I think it's confirmed. I don't think it's a rumor anymore. I think they're actually doing 4.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that seems like a great thing. And those being, the originals are pretty old. So, being able to use the technology, like Nikki mentioned before that, is cool. We can make a game that's very, very similar to the old one, but you don't have to play it on your, PS1 or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Because
go for it. I say if you can make money like that, I'd do it.
As long as the like he said, as long as the market is demanding it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's I think Resident Evil 2 remake, when it first came out, the market had to have been demanding it, because Resident Evil 7 just released, and that was just a major hit. Everybody loved RE7. Much more than Resident Evil 5. Let's bury that game in the ground. I don't think that game will age well if that was remade. If I'm correct, Resident Evil 5 was set in Africa. So you shoot zombies and in Africa, and I don't think that will age well in 2020. I'm just putting that out there now. Don't make that game, Capcom. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that when the market is actually demanding it and wanting it, so that you can make your money back. Liz, what do you think?
No, I completely agree. That's the example I always use is, are they doing it to make money?
Yeah.
But in this situation, it's yes, you can make money on it because people are asking for it. That's the first thing that people think of when they're pitched an idea for a game, a movie, a book.
Yeah.
Is it marketable?
Yeah.
Are people do people want this?
I agree.
So completely agree.
Yeah. And our final answer comes from us on Facebook. Oh my goodness. And it comes from Twofer, which, okay, if you're watching this, make the next video, man. Do it. Twofer just made his channel, and his videos, by the way, are just they're really heartwarming, man. I like the way he does it. So, Twofer, make more videos, man. I know you want to, so just do it, dude. Twofer says, that really depends, I think. I can say with certainty, not every year, which we've established that too in our show, that a yearly release just will lead to serious fatigue. I think if you release a game every 2 to 3 years, I don't think there will be as much series fatigue as every year. But that's what he says. It depends, but he can say for certainty that not every year. So,
Yeah.
Dan, what do you think about that?
I agree. It seems like he already listened to the show. So
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, he's
He
psychic,
can
dude.
see. I was gonna say he can see into the future. He saw what we were talking about. He's like, I'm gonna get them.
All right.
Mhm.
And yeah, Liz, what do you think? I think we all agree with that,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's basically what we all stated earlier: is that 2 to 3 years is a decent time. It's short enough that you don't forget it. You're still like excited for it. But it's long enough that you are ready for a new one, you miss it, and you've had enough time to actually finish the first one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with it, and I'm also going to reiterate, Twofer, make your next video, dude. But yeah, so that's social media answers, and yeah, so if you want to get involved, definitely follow us on social media at Gaming Groceries on Twitter, Games and Groceries, all one word, on Instagram. And Facebook. Just find us on Facebook. It's not a big deal. It goes on that toxic wasteland of Facebook, where your racist uncle lives. But that's horrible. But yeah. So going into closing thoughts here, as we are wrapping up the show in the next 15, 20 minutes. Now I want to ask all of you here around the table, and TV Dan back behind us. Do we think that fans just complain too much sometimes when there's a lack of a sequel, or do you think they're making these arguments because there is more story to tell, or are they kind of forcing a story to come out? Dan, what do you think about this? Do fans complain too much with a lack of a sequel?
Fans probably complain too much in general, but
Yes.
it seems like there's a loud segment of fans, probably no matter what you do, but it's like, oh, you didn't do it the way I thought you should have.
Yeah.
You didn't come out with a sequel. You came out with a sequel I didn't like. It took too long. It was too fast. Whatever. Like it seems like as long as you do anything, there are going to be loud people who complain, which is too bad. But I think that. Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I feel like as fans, we're not owed any sequels. Like, and I really don't want one. Like, if it's not going to be the people who made it wanting to do it. Like for me, I would be totally into like more like Life is Strange, more Max and Chloe. I get the story's over, and like
same.
I'm cool with that. But if they made it, I would definitely play it.
Yeah.
Like I'm there. I'm easy money for them. But I don't. If they never do it, I'm fine with that. Like that's okay. And I definitely wouldn't want them to like just do it because Square Enix is like, do it. You need to make us money. And then they like put something out, and it's like, oh, I guess they went to college or something. Like, I guess that would be better as a fan fiction instead.
Yeah, and definitely thinking about like Life is Strange with Max and Chloe, the comics came out and they continued the story. And I think it's like, do we find that satisfying? I'm not going to say too much of my thoughts on it because, maybe in the future, who knows? But yeah, I definitely think the comics did us justice, where a lot of people were wanting the Max and Chloe sequel, and we got the Life is Strange comics where we start to see Max and Chloe outside of video games. So, yeah, I do agree with you, Dan, that I think fans complain too much regardless. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to please anybody. Yeah. And I think I mentioned that in one of my coffee games videos. Wow. Check out my coffee games. What are you doing on the podcast? Come on now. But yeah, I do agree that fans complain, and you're not going to please everybody. But I think fans do sometimes complain where it's just like, where's the next one? Where's the next one? And sometimes games can just end, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think. I had a game in mind where they came out with a sequel, not Force Unleashed 2, but there's a game that came out, and I was just like, it didn't need a sequel. Or even talk about Last of Us. If it didn't come out with a sequel, I don't think anybody would complain, but people wanted the second story so bad. What are your thoughts, Liz?
Well, Dan stole my joke. Because I was like, well, the gaming community complains about everything. Yeah. So that they complain too much in general. But I think it kind of reminds me of when we were in youth ministry.
Yeah.
And we were always talking about how you can't be everyone's cup of tea. There's always, especially in the gaming community, you're not going to please everyone.
Yeah.
In any community, in any fan base, you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
You're going to lose people and you're going to gain people from what you're doing. Like, but yeah, like I was saying, in youth ministry, we always said, they're like, you're not everyone's cup of tea.
No.
But there are people who were coming in because they finally found someone like you.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing, like we've been to a church where they even said that in one of their speeches about it, like how they were growing. They're like, you know what? Like there are a lot of people who don't like what we do. It's like, but we get a lot more people than what we're losing.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's going to be in any fan base, including video game fan bases. It's that you're not always going to make everyone happy. You do what, and that's why I always go back to like passion when it comes to sequels, especially. It's like, if you have the passion to continue your story or whatever you're doing, do it. Yeah. And if people don't like it, people don't like it, but you'll still have people who do, and you'll probably gain some people. Yeah. You know, so in the end, do what, of course, will make you money because it's your job. Yeah. But also do it because you're passionate about it. If you're, because you always say, Adam, you're always saying that, like, if you're interested in it, there's other people interested in it. Yes. So if you are passionate about this story, there's bound to be a good amount of people who agree with you. You know? Yeah.
I do like to say that. It's just like, if you are interested in something, if you are interested in a story, chances are there are some people who want to be involved. Now, when it comes to game investments, it's a matter of how many people. And I think that's why a lot of game developers, a lot of veteran game developers have been leaving their studios, because they don't care about the numbers of the investment. They just want to make the game. Yeah. But yeah, no, I do agree with everyone on this table, including TV Dan behind us. Yes. That's I think game communities can be a little bit toxic, but mostly, you know, let games just come out when they come out. Or if a sequel is not profitable, you know, it's the studio's job to make investments back. And unfortunately, when we're talking about AAA games, you have to think about the investors behind it. Yeah. And again, going back on my point that I made 5 seconds ago, that's why these studio leads are kind of leaving and doing their own thing, because they're tired of just impressing investors rather than just making the game they want to make. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a game that just, like, it hasn't come out with a sequel besides Elder Scrolls that's that I'm just almost begging for. Here's another thing. What's a game that's come out that we're begging doesn't make a sequel? That's a good question. I almost thought it was Life is Strange at first, and I was just like, you know what? It's fine just the way it is.
But there's only 2 feels weird for Life is Strange. Yeah. I feel like they need at least 3. Yeah. Dan, have you ever played a game and you just begged for it to not have a sequel? Do you have any thoughts?
Trying to think of any games that I like that I would want to be done. The only ones I can think of are like really indie games, but like they're just kind of done. Like Oxenfree, you don't need an Oxenfree 2. I would probably play it still, but and you know, if they came up with a way to make it work and they wanted to, sure, I'm down. But like, they don't need one. I don't know, because I'm like, you know, What Remains of Edith Finch or like Detroit Become Human. Like, I liked all of those games, but they don't really put themselves in a spot where it would even make sense if there was a sequel. So I don't know.
It's funny you say that with Oxenfree, because the most watched video on my Oxenfree Let's Play on the channel, which it's on the channel, come on now. The Oxenfree, the most watched one was the one I titled "There's an Oxenfree Sequel," and that's the one where I went into Continue Timeline, and it's kind of like a sequel to Oxenfree, and it's the most watched one, and it's number 1 when you search for Oxenfree sequel, because people are just like, they want the Oxenfree sequel. And then they're like, oh, there is one. And it's just like, oh, no, dang it. It's the same game, just kind of a sequel. But
that was cool how they did that. And the audio changed and stuff as you went through. And that was super cool.
If you don't know, if you haven't played Oxenfree yet, I always tell people, play Oxenfree. And then they're like, oh, wow, it's a good game. I'm like, you haven't finished it yet. Yeah. They're like, what do you mean? You have to do the Continue Timeline, and it becomes a new game. Almost, it becomes a new perspective. And I always say you have to play Oxenfree twice for you to actually beat Oxenfree. But like I said, that's the most watched video because people saw it and they're like, "Oh yes, please."
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Liz, any other thoughts?
Not really. I was just thinking about because you had asked, were there any games that you're like wishing didn't? And I can't think of any games because I don't really play too many, especially standalone games. But I know there have been movies where I'm like, please just let it be good and just be alone and stay by itself. But I couldn't think of any of those. The only thing I thought of was Halloween. Because the 2018 Halloween, I knew they were going to make another one. Because once again, they did not show Michael dying. They showed him standing in fire, which you would assume he'd die. But they don't show him dying. I'm like, well, there's going to be another one. He somehow lives through this. Again. And I'm like kind of torn in half about it. I know this isn't about video games, but I need to just discuss it.
Go for it.
But it's like one of those things where you're torn. It's like, that was really awesome and I'm super happy there's another one, but at the same time it's like, can we be done? I'm so exhausted with this guy coming back from the dead every time.
I think we can go into closing remarks before we close out the show, and I'll let Dan have the final word. So but for me, I think that let just sequels come out the way they're supposed to. Games take a long time to make. If we expect a sequel as soon as we want it to, it's not going to be a sequel we want. Games take time. Like we said before, they take longer than movies. There's a lot of time in input. There's technology that they're waiting for. There's licensing for the different engines that they have to do. And I think that we just have to give it time, and there's plenty of other games to play. But, let the sequel be the sequel that's the studios wants. Liz, what are your closing remarks?
I just think for sequels, like, just let them come organically. Like, let them come naturally when they're needed, when they're wanted. Because like we always see and like we've discussed is that sometimes they're just putting out because they want to make money. And yes, people still play them and people enjoy them, but they're not as good as they can be. And I think waiting that extra year or two, instead of having come out every year, or even every year and a half to 2 years, if you wait closer to 2 or 3 years, it's going to be better. Like if it's something that you really, really want as a fan, it's like, be patient then, because you're gonna beg for it, and they're gonna rush to get it out for you, and it's gonna suck because they rushed it.
Yes, I agree.
And then, but if you let everything just come naturally and let them actually have time to plan it and think about it and grow that passion for this new part of the story or whatever that they, because I only play story games, but this new part of this game, then it'll be what you imagined it to be. So just let everything come organically.
Dan, closing remarks. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like what both of you said. I think that, ultimately, like, as, I don't know, people who want to play games, like, let the creators create the stuff they want. If that takes them a long time, that's cool. Like, I don't know, I like the game because I like it, but I know that there's people behind it who made good stuff, and I want them to keep making things they like, because then chances are I'll like it too. So I'm totally with that. Also, I really liked what Liz mentioned earlier of not everything's like your cup of tea. I think that's like important in general. Like I think that's important for creators, right? Like they need that themselves, but and like I don't know, whoever backs them financially should be able to feel that way too. But then I think also just as like people in the gaming community, like consumers or fans or whatever, like we should all have that idea too of everything's not our cup of tea. So it's like, okay, this game came out and it's a sequel, but I don't like it. Like, I don't know. Other people are allowed to like it. It's not like a threat to me liking it or something, like, or not liking it or whatever. So I feel like that's something is like we should we can not like things, but I feel like it's like, oh, they made a sequel and I hate that sequel. It's like I don't know that we need to like waste anyone's time with that.
True. I think we can close out the show from there. And before we actually close things out, I want to roll out the red carpet for Mr. Dan here of his podcast, The Greatest Story Ever Played podcast. Dan, tell us a little bit about the podcast. Tell us a little bit about the show and the content you make. Let's hear about it. Tell us, Dan. What do you think?
Cool. Yeah. So our podcast is called The Greatest Story Ever Played. In it, we do a different story-driven game each episode. So we've talked a lot about like Life is Strange here. We've done those. I mentioned that Dark Pictures Little Hope is going to be coming out in a few weeks. I've done Until Dawn. Whatever. A bunch of games like that. If you like games like that, you'll probably like the games we're talking about. Adam has been on twice. We talked about God of War and we talked about Marvel's Spider-Man. Both very fun games. So if you want more of us chatting together about games, definitely check those ones out. I guess where to like find our stuff. If you look at The Greatest Story Ever Played on whatever podcast platform you use, you'll find it there. Our website's thegreateststoryeverplayed.com. That will have the episodes directly there or links to whatever app you use. And my Twitter is @StoryEverPod. And I engage quite a bit on there. So if you want to talk games, hit me up.
Yeah, I'll have the link to his podcast link down below in the description, whether you're on audio or video. I'll have the link to his Twitter, and I'll also have the link to his Patreon account. If you want to check that out, he also does bonus episodes on his Patreon. So if you want to check that out, definitely invest in your boy. So I always joke with you, Dan, that the two story games that I was on for you for. I'm an Xbox fanboy, and you got me on for PlayStation exclusives.
Well, PlayStation has story games.
It's true, yeah. But I was just like, not just like games I could play on Xbox, but like you only play on PlayStation.
That's true. You got shoehorned into the console that's not your choice.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
Adam, you have a PS4. Do you want to play this game?
It's like, sure. Like at this point, like, if I come out, I'm not inviting myself because screw that mentality. You'll just make it a trifecta and make it like another PlayStation exclusive.
Right. Just keep mining him out. Like, all right, I'm gonna keep Adam playing PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly, man. Dan, it was good to have you on again, man. Really good friend of the show. Again, I think you were our second guest ever on our podcast. So
yeah, it's pretty early.
Yeah, I think you're a second, right behind Absolute Prodigy. So yeah, man, it was good to have you back on, man. It's been too long.
And for real. Thanks for having me back on. This was really fun getting to chat with both of you again.
For sure, dude. I think we'll close out the show from there. Dan, again, blast to have you on. Definitely check out his show, The Greatest Story Ever Played. If you love story-driven games, if you like taking a deep dive into that, definitely check out his podcast. It will be linked down below, along with his Twitter, if you want to chat with him about video games. But you can also follow us on the social medias. I've said 3 times so far on the podcast. Twitter @Gaming Groceries, Instagram Games and Groceries, all one word. Always remember, be safe out there. It's a dangerous world out there, man. Wear your mask. What are you doing, fool? Wear your mask, dude. And we'll see you in the next one. Have a safe one, and just keep on gaming. I don't know.
Bye.
See ya.